In today's video, come along with me for a really nice Caribbean cruise on Norwegian Breakaway, where we stayed in the Haven and enjoyed a quiet, uncrowded V.I.P experience. We had fun on several shore excursions, and at Norwegian's private island in the Bahamas, we had a private air-conditioned villa with full access to the island's newest feature, a private infinity pool overlooking the ocean. This was my 65th cruise since 1996, my 10th cruise with Norwegian Cruise Line, and our 6th time in the Haven, a private, uncrowded part of the ship that only about 180 VIP guests have access to, and the other 4,200 or so passengers on the ship do not. The Haven features a private courtyard under a sliding glass dome that is closed during less than perfect weather. And inside the courtyard, there's a swimming pool and 2 hot tubs exclusively for the use of the guests staying in the Haven. On the upper level of the courtyard, lots of comfortable loungers and other seating options, all with thick cushions that make them much more comfortable than the seating you'll find on much of the rest of the ship. Outside, there's a private sun deck just for guests of the Haven, with both loungers and day beds when you want to soak up some sun. The Haven has its own restaurant, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you can choose to have your meals served at tables in the courtyard, or even delivered to your stateroom by your butler. There's also a lounge that's just for guests of the Haven, and the lounge has its own bar. And finally, the Haven concierge is here to get you reservations for specialty dining or entertainment, even if those venues are showing as being fully booked to regular passengers on the ship. With me for this cruise, as usual, was my wife, Kellen, on the right there, but also my sister, Judy, and her husband, whose name is Jim, as is mine. So we call him Big Jim, and they call me Jim Zim. We've cruised together once before. We did a cruise to Alaska together, and ever since then, I've been trying to get them to come with us on a Caribbean cruise. And when our schedules finally aligned, to knock their socks off, I made sure we booked staterooms in the Haven. Now, there are lots of different types of staterooms available in the Haven, but I suggested we each stay in what's known as a Haven Courtyard Penthouse. They call it a penthouse simply because it's on the highest possible floor of the ship, and there are no cabins any higher up on the ship than this. And they call it a Haven Courtyard Penthouse because they're located right across the hallway from the Haven Courtyard, so that you could literally walk out of your cabin and be at the Haven pool or the hot tubs inside the courtyard in about 30 seconds. It's my favorite type of Haven stateroom, and it's also one of the least expensive. Of course, you have a private balcony for enjoying the views. One of the very few negative things that happened, though, is that they wouldn't agree to open up the partition between our cabin and my sister and brother-in-law's cabin right next door. They said that the captain had declared that the partitions should not be opened. I liked everything about our stateroom, and especially the bed, which was super comfortable, maybe the most comfortable we've ever had on a cruise ship. Now, in a minute, I want to tell you about the islands we visited and the shore excursions we booked, including that luxurious air-conditioned villa on Norwegian's private island. But first, I want to just mention that if you're interested in booking a cruise in the Haven, on Norwegian Breakaway, or on any of the ships in the Norwegian fleet, I want to suggest that you use the services of my travel agent, Caitlin Gallagher. She can give you excellent advice and make sure you don't make any rookie mistakes during the booking process. She's very knowledgeable, can definitely answer your questions. And she's not in some call center overseas somewhere. She works out of her home office in Florida. And she's not just a travel agent. Caitlin is the owner of Ambrin Travel. Her services don't cost you a thing. Caitlin's fees are paid for by the cruise lines, and I definitely recommend her. During our cruise, the ship stopped at 3 different Caribbean islands. The first was the Dominican Republic, where we docked in Puerto Plata. It's a very interesting port because you literally don't have to book a shore excursion. You can walk right off the ship and enjoy totally free of charge these wonderful facilities right at the port next to where the cruise ship docks. There is a gigantic swimming pool, which you are welcome to use free of charge. There's a swim-up bar, which was totally uncrowded. And the best part might be this lazy river, where you can just float around and soak up the sunshine while staying cool in the water. There are many bars here at Puerto Plata, just for the cruise ship passengers, and a variety of restaurants, too. Not just one, but several, all for you to enjoy during your day at Puerto Plata. I've got a thing for macaws, so I loved that they had macaws that you could interact with. And I got a kick out of watching people get their feet cleaned by these tiny, gentle fish. So Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic is a great cruise destination where you don't even have to book a shore excursion. Just spend the day right here at this little resort at the Tano Bay Cruise Terminal, built just for cruise ship passengers like me and you. Our second stop was the island of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We did a really great shore excursion here called the St. John Champagne Catamaran Sail and Snorkel. This involved sailing on a catamaran over to the neighboring island of St. John. Now, the weather really didn't cooperate. It was a gray, windy day, but it was warm, so it wasn't as bad as it might look in this shot. We actually enjoyed it quite a lot. But you probably don't want to do this one if you're prone to seasickness. I'm not. I love sailboats. They handed out snorkeling gear, and we anchored off the coast of St. John and enjoyed some snorkeling. Now, it was definitely not the greatest snorkeling site I had ever been to, and the weather went downhill. It started to rain, but it really didn't matter because we were in the warm ocean water. The final day of the cruise was totally the best one. We visited Norwegian Cruise Line's private island in the Bahamas, Great Stirrup Cay. The ship anchored off the coast, and they used tenders to get us ashore. The big news is that very soon they're going to start construction on a pier so that NCL ships can dock here rather than having to tender people ashore. We spent the big bucks here, renting what they call a lagoon villa for the day at the upscale Silver Cove area of the island. Now, this is totally optional. You can spend the day at Great Stirrup Cay totally for free. But we figured, since there were 4 of us, it wasn't that expensive to rent this villa for $949 for the day to give us an air-conditioned place to beat the heat and a place to safely store our stuff while we were at the adjacent beach. And it also gave us access to the newest feature that they just added to Great Stirrup Cay. Guests who rent a villa at Silver Cove now have access to this beautiful brand new infinity pool that they just completed a couple of months ago. It overlooks where the ship is anchored off the coast, and since it is a freshwater pool, not saltwater, it's a favorite place for the local birds to visit, to grab a drink of fresh water. Now, they're very friendly, and I got a kick out of hanging out with them. There are a lot of shady places where you can hang out next to the pool, as well as loungers and umbrellas directly adjacent to the pool, and this is all exclusively for the use of the guests who rent a villa at Great Stirrup Cay. I got a kick out of the fact that from the infinity pool, you actually had a really good view of the adjacent island right next door, which is Royal Caribbean's private island, Coco Cay. And the funny thing is that my wife and I were just there a few months ago during a cruise on the world's largest cruise ship, Icon of the Seas, a ship that I really have no desire to ever cruise on again. It was a crowded party ship, fun for families, but not for an old boomer like me that likes things quiet and uncrowded. And the worst part is that Royal Caribbean is just going for the kill with their high prices. To rent a villa on Royal Caribbean's private island, comparable to what we got on NCL's island for $949, on Royal Caribbean's private island, they were charging a shameful $3,599. Even an open-air cabana, just a shack basically, not air-conditioned at all, was $1,499 on Royal Caribbean's private island. So our very luxurious, fully air-conditioned villa on Norwegian's private island at just $949 seemed like a bargain, especially considering that you can share it among up to 8 people and split the cost. So I really enjoyed our cruise on Norwegian Breakaway, especially the visit to Norwegian's private island in the Bahamas, but also the quiet, uncrowded, upscale experience of staying in the Haven. And I like the fantastic way that they offer outdoor dining at their specialty restaurants. Norwegian Breakaway is a ship that I like a lot. My wife and I cruised in the Haven on Norwegian Breakaway 5 years ago, and we loved it. So when my sister and her husband wanted us to pick out a great cruise that we could all do together, the fact that I suggested Norwegian Breakaway and the Haven should tell you everything you need to know. I'm Jim Zim. Thanks for watching.